we're going to talk about anxiolytic activity, decreasing anxiety. Anxiety is modulated through our limbic system. And in your brain, there's a limbic system, and it's made up of the amygdala, basal ganglia, hippocampus, and hypothalamus, and then the neocortex. And what happens with anxiety, depending on how your amygdala is perceiving what's going on, it attaches emotion to situations, to events, to words that are said, to looks that are given. So if the amygdala and this whole limbic system is off, then that will be a trigger to increase anxiety. So what CBD has been shown to do is reduce anxiety in social situations. It helps reduce hyperactivity through this action in the limbic system. It activates adenosine receptors, which are calming, and the 5-HT1 receptors, which again help with serotonin, and they're sort of the happy modulating neurotransmitter. So the activity in the limbic system influences emotional learning. Like we were saying, the amygdala attaches emotion to situations, to ideas. It modulates stress reactions through the hypothalamus. By reacting in the hypothalamus, it's actually helping to control your pituitary and then all of your hormone system. So not only is it helping at the brain piece, it's helping endocrine-wise in modulating and reducing stress response, that fight or flight. And then it helps with emotional regulation, learning, and extinction of fear. And when you talk about that, actually all anxiety is based in fear. And it's just in different levels and different pieces, but it's really an excess of fear, and then you start to become anxious. And it can be actual something that's threatening or something that potentially can threaten you, or it can actually be a real situation that's ongoing, or it can be what's perceived to be threatening. So it doesn't have to be they're being chased by a bear. It can be they see the situation as stressful, and so now it induces anxiety. And as this loop stays, you can get those triggers that spread. So you may have one thing that starts to create anxiety, but over time, if it stays there, and in the amygdala and hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, you start to build a pattern. So now other things can trigger that fear that weren't really creating fear before. So the idea is to really get this modulated so you're not having big issues. Prolonged stress, what that does, and we think about that, it affects the hippocampus. So what's going to happen is what may not have created fear or issues before will now start to create fear and issues. And in the hippocampus, the high cortisol that a lot of people that are in that fight or flight mode have is actually starting to deteriorate the hippocampus, and you get atrophy. You don't get new cells being formed because every cell in us is replaced. So if your cortisol stays high, you're under extended stress for an extended period of time, it now affects your hippocampus. So now it's affecting what's going on with your ability to control your anxiety. And it starts to keep escalating. And then there's a decrease in synaptic plasticity. So the ability to start to modulate things gets reduced.